Well, we've got our fifth guest on the FFS Podcast show, and we're lucky to have Sean Holley, former coach of the Ospreys and Bristol and with Wales as well, and also now of his TV analysis world. But more importantly, he's actually also a director of Muuk Adventures and a business partner of mine. So that's his main role. He doesn't like to say it, that's all the stuff that's behind the scenes. So how are you, Sean?
I'm good, thanks. Bit disappointed I'm the fifth guest, but I suppose they're far more important people than me. But delighted to come on the FFS. Good name for a podcast. And very proud to be involved with Muuk Adventures. We've been going a couple of years now, Fint. And as much as this period, this lockdown is really tough for us because being events-based and activities-based, it's tough times for us. I'm sure that we'll come out the other end and keep doing a great job. And you're doing a great job down there in St. David's. I'm sure all the listeners and viewers know of our events, and we're a growing company. But yeah, I'm all right. Like everybody, trying to adjust to the lockdown. Pretty surreal for me in my new world as a bit of a businessman and TV commentator, pundit. Everything's gone. I think I was telling you off air that it's 100% pay cut for me at the moment. So it's pretty tough, yeah. But hey, it's got to be done.
Speaking of adapting, Sean, I've seen you've been commentating on archived Pro 14 games this week. They set that up starting with, I think, last year's final. How's that experience been? Is it strange?
Yeah, it is strange. It's not so bad for me, Fraser, because I haven't actually commentated as such on the game. They take me as a bit of a analysis expert. So retrospectively, I've looked back at the games, look at themes, or what's the reasons for Leinster winning the final, for example,
right.
Where Glasgow went wrong, where Leinster went right, and then package that together as a 2-3 minute analysis piece. For people who don't have the inclination to watch the whole game again, it just gives them a snapshot, or they are keen to find out, a bit more of the intricacies. I think that's been the sort of role that I've cultivated, nurtured since I've gone on the TV when Scrum 5 gave me the break. Back in 2012, I first went on. So it's trying to be the coach on the TV. And then in these times, it's quite innovative of Pro 14 to go back and stream some of the former games that people won't have seen, particularly those who haven't subscribed to Premier Sports, because it's now, a monthly subscription. And it's great for me to sharpen the tools to keep, working on the game, looking at the game more closely. It gives me the inclination to do it. So I love that sort of stuff.
When you're doing that role for Scrum 5, obviously you have to watch, I assume, 80 minutes in quite a lot of detail and maybe replays at times for what is essentially 3, 4, 5 minutes of analysis. Have you got in your head before you're going in what subject are you looking for, something you think you're going to pick on, or is it simply a case of watching every second and picking it up as it goes along?
Good question. A couple of things for me. So if I'm working on a Six Nations game, an Autumn International, my role on a Sunday at Scrum 5 is just, as you say, it's 2-minute blocks.
Yeah.
And I probably work more hours than anybody else on the show for that 4 minutes. But I don't mind doing it. So firstly, if it's home, I ensure I go to all the games live. I'm one of the few people in the stadium who doesn't have a pint in my hand. I have a notebook, and I'll make notes on things I see. Because you can imagine how many games and training sessions I've seen in my life.
Yeah,
I've almost got a set of motor schema patterns in my mind that I can almost see things happening as they are before they happen, just purely because of time and experience. Those notes then I'll take back, and I'll either watch the game that night again, or usually early on the Sunday morning to confirm my findings. But also then I'll look at a few different other camera angles that I'm privy to and find a couple of themes, because people's retention, you watch a game live, and particularly those who've had a few pints, by 2 hours after the game, they can remember, I think it's something like 8% of the game. So you take that now to Sunday night, they can't really remember, maybe the odd try or whatever. So I look for things then that are themes that have made a massive difference, or sidetrack things that have led to scores, little blocks, holds, good runs, support plays, off the ball incidents that people go, wow, I didn't see that, or I saw that. I thought I saw it. I told my mates, and I told you, So that's the sort of thing I tried to create, and then tell a story in those 2 minutes. Now it actually takes. So if you think, I watched the game probably twice again on a Sunday morning. I've got editing software on my laptop, which probably takes another couple of hours that I chunk down. Then I export that into a piece of software where I can do some basic analysis tools, lines, arrows, shading, squares, circles. And then I voice over that, not what you see on a Sunday night. I voice over for a guy that puts the bells and whistles on in the BBC. So I say, right, his name's Al, Big Al, right? So I'll say, Al, see this, slow-mo this down, zoom in on this. You'll see what Hadley Parkes does here. Then you'll see Gareth Davies's run. And then I'll send that to him. And he's listening to me, putting on the bells and whistles, and then I'll go up about maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon and help him the finer points. We probably get to about 3 minutes, and then I have the painstaking period of going into the edit and chopping away 1 minute of the 3 minutes that I've painstakingly put together. Yeah. And it's like, honestly, you say about directors and editors in films putting the best bits on the edit floor. Honestly, there's so much good stuff that I've had to discard because the program only allows me 2 minutes. But it's an important 2 minutes because it sets up the chats for the legends and tells a narrative of the game. I love it.
Sure.
Well, there goes. Good insight there. I just want to take you back a moment there, Sean, to you say you're the 5th guest on here. The reason that is obviously we've been having some people who've gone the long distances, ultra running or training for Ironman and stuff like that. So as from last weekend, you obviously joined that ranks when you did 100 miles on your bike. How was that?
It was tough, Vint. First of all, hands up. Big clap for Ryan Jones. He's doing things to, amuse himself, but obviously raise money for the NHS heroes. And you could see, well over 100 people joined in on Zoom, and I think it's up to £38,000. So fair play. It was brilliant, but it is hard. Now I did the Velindre Cancer Centre ride a year last September, San Francisco to LA. Which was around about 100K a day on average. And if anybody's been to the west coast of America, it's unbelievably hilly. I couldn't believe it. But you've got amazing scenery and people around you and the ability to really focus on a period of riding. Some days it was 110 miles, other days it might have been 60 miles. We'd average out about 100K a day. But to do 100-mile on a static bike, I tell you what, it was really tough, challenging mentally. Now, physically, you tend to cope, and Ryan will tell you this, it's your body can cope, it's your mind that goes first. And I fell off twice. Can you believe it? I did 7-day cycling in the west coast of America. I didn't fall off once. I'm on a static bike in my home. I fell off twice. So it was hard, but it was brilliant. I'm looking forward to this Saturday. He's doing a 1-mile walk. That's right up my street in my 50th year. I'll do that, no problem. But it was great. And you did well, mate. You finished before me.
Yeah, it was a really good challenge. I sort of, everything you just said, I'd agree with 100%. That sort of mentally of sitting on that bike for that long. And obviously we were all on Zoom, which helped to break up the monotony of it. And I heard every now and again, Sean Holley's fallen off again or something, so and I'm thinking, what's that all about? But
do you know what I did, right? There's an app, isn't there? Zwift, is it, or something like that? So I got on it, and I'm not a brilliant cyclist, but I got on it, and I'm going away, and I'm thinking sometimes the milometer was going up a lot slower, but then I realized I put it on a program that had a lot of hills. Now, it doesn't change the sort of cadence of your bike, but mentally you're pedaling the same, but you're going slower. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I was doing, I was simulating. I was on a hill and I was ramping the gears up. And the first time I fell off, I stood up because I did a lot of standing up on the bike in America because it was easier on the backside. and I just fell off. I just crashed over in my gym at home. So then we had a delay where me and the boys took the stuff outside on the decking. And again, I got to run about 80 miles. I was really tired and just fell over into all the equipment down on the decking. Well, the boys were in stitches when but those challenges have to be tough, mate. They have to be tough because they're nowhere near as tough as what people on the front line or were suffering are going through.
No, that's true. I couldn't stand up on it. You've got to have a technique that I thought every 45 kilometers, I'm going to get off the bike. So I had a water bottle by me. So I'll make sure that water bottle is finished by 45 kilometers, keep myself hydrated. Then I get off the bike, I walk to the kitchen sink because I was outside doing it, fill up the water bottle, walk back. So that was my psychological thing of breaking it up. And then I thought within the first 10 kilometers from that, seeing the breeze. Then I would watch the Zoom for 20 kilometers. And then the last 15 kilometers of the breaking it up would be headphones in, head down, and going as fast as I could. So it was just, and then by the last 15, 20 kilometers, I was in so much pain on my backside. And it's still sore now. Yeah. A week later and it's still not
Mate,
good.
you wanna try doing 7 days on the bounce on average 100k.
Yeah.
Your gooch, mate, it hurts. I'm telling you now. Day one or day two, everybody's politely in their hotel rooms or tents or cabins, wherever we stay in, politely putting this cream on, because obviously where it hurts is in a very private place. I think day three, Jiffy, Jonathan Davis, broke the ice because he came out in the car park. We were all ready to start. Put his lycra sort of salopettes, whatever he got on, took them off like that, took a big handful of cream and just went whoosh, straight down underneath. I don't care anymore. My gooch is killing me. And he's rubbing the cream in. I think everybody then was just saying, well, no holds barred. But, oh, my God, yeah. I had visions, I think on about day 4, something like that. I was riding with Hugh Williams-Jones, who was a 25 stoner, you know. And I was riding with him because we had a hilly day. And I thought, right, I'm going to ride with you all day. And my backside was so bad. I had visions of, a baboon. Seen pictures of a baboon. Yeah. That's what it felt. I felt my backside looked like a baboon. This colour it was. It was this colour, Muuk Adventures orange. It was unbelievable. But you dig in, mate. You got to do it.
Yeah. No, those, see, with distant memory go now, things like that, don't they? But we'll get back to it. We will get back to those days again.
We will.
I know Fraser's got a few questions that he wants to put to you, so I'm going to hand you over to him.
Yeah, Sean, I just wanted to go back to the start of your time in rugby, actually, because I know that you're widely seen now as a pundit and before that a coach. No one really talks about Sean Holley, the player, but obviously you were a promising player. You played out in Australia, if I got that right. University a couple of years there, which is tough experience for anyone, and then you were at Aberavon when at the age of 24 it was ended quite cruelly for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was always a keen sportsman right from a kid. My father was a soccer player. He was an apprentice with Leeds United and Don Ravy. My mother's first cousin Alan Rees played outside half for Wales in 1962. He was the opening bat for Glamorgan with Alan Jones and was a specialist 12th man fielder for England in the covers. Went north to play for Leeds Rugby League. And her other first cousin is a guy called Keith Golden Boots Barnes, who emigrated with his family to Australia when he was just 14 from Aberavon, and went on to captain Australia Rugby League in the 50s. I've got a sporting family, and I was a talented kid. I could play all sports quite well. I was probably a jack of all trades, but never mastered them. And actually, my dad says I was a better footballer than anything else. I played Welsh schoolboys. I was the captain of the Welsh schoolboys cricket team. But my heart was in rugby. My schoolmaster was the late John Bevan, who played outside half for Wales and the Lions. He was our PE teacher. He died of leukemia whilst I was head boy at Dufferin Comprehensive. So he taught me to play rugby and cricket, essentially. And I always wanted to play rugby. And I was a bit of a late bloomer because I had a bit of a growth spurt. I was at 18, I was probably about 6'2" and 14.5 stone, which then, as a outside half, 12, fullback, goal kicker, was a fair size, and I was physically fit. But my stag picked me up first of all. I was playing down at my local club, which is British Steel, Port Talbot. My stag picked me up. Leighton Davis, who tragically died this week, the coach, and I played there. And then I went to Australia on a gap year, where I went to live with my Uncle Keith, and I played for the University of New South Wales out there, bit of cricket for Ramwick. And then during that time, I got an offer to play at Loughborough University, so to study at Loughborough University. I came back, and I had 3 years of great rugby at Loughborough, because you play on a Wednesday against the universities, but every Saturday then you'd play against Bath, Harlequins, Saracens, Northampton, Leicester, primarily second teams with a sprinkle in the first team, but great grounding. I played the odd game for my stag while I was up there. And then when I come home on holiday periods, I played for my stag. And then I also signed for Rugby Lions whilst I was in Loughborough. I had a season in 92, 93, playing the university and Rugby Lions, which was great because we played in Courage League One, so it was a good standard. And then when I came home in 94 after my course, I signed for my home club, Aberavon, which John Bevan always wanted us in school to play, aspired to play for Aberavon. And I did. I signed for Aberavon, and I was going really well. I was playing well, kicking well, which is important. And then we played South Africa. And I always say this, after dinners, I don't remember too much about it, but it was 22 minutes past 7 on the 22nd of November, 1994. It was 2 degrees. I was playing in the centre, blah, blah, blah. I just had an innocuous collision in a tackle, and ended up with a pretty smashed knee, cartilage, ligaments, and I smashed my kneecap into 3 pieces. So I was teaching at the time in CCTA, was where I was teaching Finton there. And so I was 18 months and 3 operations, convalescence. And I was never going to get back, Fraser, to be honest. The game turned professional in that time. We got promoted as Aberavon to the Premier League. The one thing I was really devastated about is Jonathan Davis's return to rugby union. His first game was live on TV on Scrum 5, and it was against Aberavon.
Really?
And I was still recovering from the injury, so I desperately wanted to play in that, but I couldn't make it back, and I never made it back really. And so I turned my attention to coaching, which I had done at CCTA, and as they say, the rest is history.
I remember, obviously, those playing days, because you were teaching me at CCTA in Slesley, and I remember you'd come on as a new teacher, I think, on our second year on the course, and almost straight away, Aberavon were playing Slesley.
That's right, yeah.
Right now, and I think obviously Aberavon beat Slesley, which was a massive thing at the time. Am I right in saying you kicked all 15 points?
I kicked 18 points in a, what was it? Hang on now. It was 32-31 or 33-32 victory. And it was a brilliant game. It's probably the best game I ever played in. I played 12 that day. And that was half my problem, boys, to be honest. I played all my school days at 10. When my stag signed me, I played 15. When I went to Loughborough, I played 10 and 12. When I came back to Aberavon, I played 15 and 12. So I was good bench material, you know. Plus I could kick goals. But that day I played 12. And I remember it was a tough day because Simon Davis, the centre, was playing. And Nigel Davis was always the renowned one. But they were a great partnership. And Simon played that day and he was brilliant. Real handful. But I had one of those days where everything went over. Billy Shenton, the captain, because I was striking it so well, I could kick long range, anything around 40 metres, he was saying posts. And yeah, I had a good day that day. We beat Llanelli, which was great for me because I was teaching down in the Graig with you boys. Probably give me a little bit of credibility because I wasn't that old. I was 23, 24. You boys would have been 19, you know. So it's probably my one of my finest hours, I would have thought.
Well, it was when you. I remember you came back, and I remember it was funny enough. Steve Bennett was on the course, Phil Bennett's son, and I And he would say, "Oh my God!" So he nicknamed you Leg End then. So that was your teacher's
I never heard
nickname.
that.
Yeah, you were Leg End after that.
Was I leg end?
Yeah,
Well, there we are. That's something. That's something. Nothing to do with my teaching.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'll shoot back to Fraser.
When your playing days finished then, Sean, obviously you got into coaching gradually. Gradually, I want to talk about one of your key starting points, actually, was at Hartpury College, if that's right, coaching rugby there. Now, I was at university in Cardiff, and obviously at the time, Hartpury were the primary university. This was a few years later now, 2005, 2006, but even then, they were still so far and away advanced compared to other institutions when it came to rugby, and I'd even include Cardiff Met in that. Others have caught up since, but they were almost the first university that I was aware of that brought a sense of professionalism and had real links with professional clubs like Gloucester and so on. What was it like there, and just how professional and structured was it, considering it's a student environment and most rugby clubs involving students are pretty chaotic?
It's a great story, actually, Fraser, and I welcome the opportunity to speak about it because not many people know. I was down at CCTA and I wrote a course just off the top of my head one day called Rugby Studies. I just thought, I've been through an injury. Not everybody's going to make a top flight or professional rugby player, but there's a lot of other avenues: coaching, conditioning, analysis, player development, administration, refereeing. So I penned a course for BTEC, and we called it Rugby Studies, and it took off. Adam Jones, the tight head prop, was on the first cohort of that. He didn't do too bad, but I just thought it was a great course, and I was ready to push that on into maybe modern apprenticeships with the Scarlets, and there was no academies back then. I wanted to make an academy down at CCTA, but I think at the time the management weren't as ambitious as I was, and so I got frustrated. And I then applied for a couple of jobs, and I got offered two jobs. One was a sport development officer job at Saracens, and the other was this director of rugby at Hartpury College. Now, when I saw the advert, it had the Gloucester badge on, and it said in conjunction with Gloucester Rugby Club. So I went to the interview. A lot of people, I got the job in front of lots of high-profile people. I couldn't work out why, because I wasn't a known name. And but two things. One, the principal was very forward-thinking. He said that what got you the job was he'd had good reports from me from the Welsh Rugby Union as an aspiring coach. And secondly, was this rugby studies course. He wanted to bring that online because at the time at Hartpury, right, Fraser, it was an agricultural college with a farm and an equine college. It had a livery. There wasn't any sports courses. There was a rugby team, but there was 14 Zimbabweans and a guy from the Cotswolds, and that was it. And they didn't have they hardly had a pitch.
And this is as late as the late 90s now.
This was 2000.
Okay.
All right, 99, 2000. And so he said, I want you to draw up a 5-year plan. I want you to bring your courses, and I want you to bring. I want you to write a HND and a degree. I want you to bring scholarship students over, and I want you to develop our rugby team, and I want you to develop a link with Gloucester, because there was no link with Gloucester.
No.
So that was that. It was a hell of a challenge, but I embraced it, and I had to go around all the Gloucester clubs. They were looking at, who's this young Welsh bloke? What does he know? He's not had a long playing career. That was tough, but I got, with the help of others, a team together. I brought up James Merriman, a good Pembrokeshire boy.
Yes, yeah.
World Cup Sevens winner, and a few other guys who hadn't quite made it. And we got university status because we wrote a degree and a HND and became a faculty of UE, University West of England. So we got into BUSA. Had to start at the bottom tier, but over the period of a couple of seasons, got quickly up to the Premier. And at the same time, I was working with Gloucester Rugby Club, trying to get them on board. They made me the head coach of the Gloucester Under-21s. So I had a couple of years there, and all the while I was trying to do my level 4. I was on the first cohort of level 4 coaching badge with the WRU. And we were having our first children. It was really tough, but all the hard work that I put in paid off, because they gave me the Wales Sevens job after being the Welsh students coach. And Steve Hansen and Scott Johnson took note. They took me on board, and when 2003 came along, I had the phone call, would I coach the Ospreys? I thought they were joking because I thought I was out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
But I went down for an interview with Lynn Jones and Mike Cuddy, and actually driving back, it was a Monday night, driving back that night about 10 o'clock to Gloucester, Lynn rang me up and offered me the job. So that was it really, mate. That was I believe a lot of things happened for a reason. My injury, I was never going to go on and play for Wales or the Lions, and the injury took me down a coaching path. The rugby studies and the lack of ambition, if you like, at the then CCTA took me to Harbury, and then that took me to the Ospreys, and then off it went. So, yeah, it was. I have fond memories. Of course, everything was in place then because my Loughborough experience and what I learned at CCTA was able to allow me to formulate a professional plan for students and a pathway through the Gloucester Rugby Club. Excuse me. So that program that we wrote there was perfect for young players. And then the following people took it on. I think it was Andrew Stanley, Geraint John, Nathan Thomas, Alan Lewis. Excuse me, my dog's trying to get out of the room here. And then it's just grown from strength to strength. But not a lot of people know who the first director of rugby was and what it took to get there.
No, Geraint John was actually in charge when I went down there with Cardiff, and we took a shellacking that day. And we were a decent side, but it was you very much sense in terms of facilities and professionalism and everything. There were just a couple of levels above in Harbury.
I tell you because I was a bit disheartened when I knew Gloucester weren't involved. I was I was scuppered. I got the job thinking Gloucester were there. That was the draw, but they weren't. I had to form that. But the first summer I turned up, the principal had managed to get the European horse jumping championships, right? So I went up there. I said, "There's no pitch here, mate." He said, "Yes, there is. There it is." And I said, "That's a show jumping arena." He said, "Exactly. I've had all the funding to do the European show jumping champions."
Yeah.
He said, "We'll stage it." Princess Anne came up. Excuse me. And he said, "When it's done, I can invest. All the farmers are going to come down, and we're going to turn this into a cracking pitch." And he did. And then he built accommodation. He sent me to South Africa to get scholarship students. So I had South Africans coming over who would pay, big tuition fees that would bring money to the college. The university status give us courses where students would come on and pay big fees. And he built accommodation. He gave me an allowance for certain scholarships to bring people on. And the names that have been there since, that was the forerunner to what you see now.
Sure.
So that's how you got into the Ospreys then?
Yeah, well, I must have been doing something right. Hard work pays off. But I think what I'd done with the Welsh students, what I'd done with the Welsh Sevens, and what I'd done at Harbury, and perhaps then Gloucester, because we took the Gloucester Colts to winning the Gloucester Colts title with people like Marcel Garvey, James Simpson-Daniel, James Forrester, all big names, and the fact that I was doing well on my level 4, I think it took note. So when the candidates sort of came in, what you got to remember is when regional rugby started, it was still quite amateur. So when we started the Ospreys, there was no facilities. They had no idea of planning, scheduling, training regimes, so I think my background was something that suited the relationship with Lynn Jones. It was a brilliant coach, really good teacher, tactically very astute, and an eye for a player. So I sort of was able to do all the other stuff, if you like, for him. I had an aptitude for analysis and vision for games and training sessions and structuring and programming and all of that. So we balanced each other off. I learned a lot from Lynn in those early years, and I'd like to think he learned a lot from me, but I learned a lot about rugby. I thought I knew rugby, but I learned a lot from Lynn about the nuances of the game, and I learned a lot about selection and man managing the players, maybe good and bad, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I was going to go about the man management, because obviously you talk about Harbury, and CCTA and then with the Graig, and the players you had coming through there were all sort of youngsters.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm just managing childcare.
Lockdown.
Is it? Here we go. You all right there, Fraser? Yeah.
Yeah, good. Sorry, just managing childcare.
Just about childcare. I know. It's we've all got to do it, haven't we? Well, mine are a bit older now, but still got to manage them. So just go back, Sean, to that. You had all these players you're saying, like James Simpson Daniels, all those were in Colts and everything. He went on to be a Gloucester legend. What was it like then at the Ospreys when you've got people who've already got established reputation, especially like some of the All Blacks that came in there, and some of the Welsh characters? They were British Lions. They were well-known faces. How was the people management of that and coaching them?
Another good question, Fint. I'd had a bit of experience because, as well as Gloucester under 21s, I was coaching the United team on a Monday night. So you'd have to deal with people like Henry Paul, Andy Gummersall, Dimitri Ashvili, those sort of guys. So you had a taste of it. And also with the Welsh Sevens, people like Andy Powell to manage. So, I had a bit of a taste, but it was a double-edged sword, really, because one, they didn't really know who I was, the players. So you think of that first Ospreys meeting, you had people like Scott Gibbs was our captain, Gareth Llewellyn, Gavin Henson, Shane Williams, Adam Jones, who I knew. So it was quite daunting for me, but I quickly realized I just needed to be myself. And I just needed to do what I did best. I didn't need to pretend to be anybody else. Give them time, work with them, and not be afraid to make them understand that they can improve as players and as professional athletes. And so that stood me in good stead, because a couple of the guys who really took to that were people like Scott Gibbs. I spent a lot of time with Scott in those early days, and even though I think he was 33 at the time, and it was the end, it was the last season for Scott. He retired. And I was working on his left-hand pass a lot with him, because he said, I can't, I'm still not great at my left hand, and I spent time with him. And I took that on when we signed people like Justin Marshall, Jason Spice, Philo Tia. I'd spend time with them. I'd give them my time. I'd go through the game. I'd show them things, be a bit more suggestive. What if we did this year? What if you did that there? What would you like to work on? Should we try this? And give up my time. I think you won a level of respect. And the other thing that I learned quickly, you just had to be honest. In and around selection, their form, you just hit them between the eyes. They might not like it, but at the end of the day, I'd like to think now that all the players I coached will reflect back and respect me for the way that I treated them, because it's just like life, boys. You just want to be treated like they want to be treated like you would. You want to. What am I trying to say? You treat others like you want them to treat you. You know what I mean? And that was a bit of a mantra of mine. So I'm still very, very close friends with a lot of the players, particularly overseas players. I think the Southern Hemisphere guys who'd had a bit of head start saw my methods a little bit earlier than the Welsh boys, because they were used to some of the ways that I was coaching, because I'd learned a lot from Steve Hansen, Scott Johnson, and so on. So it was great, man. Don't get me wrong, it was tough. It was tough. And then when you get to the days which I know you're going to go to, the so-called Galacticos, well, that's a totally different thing, right? Then you're talking about man management off the field as well as on. But I was a bit older, longer in the tooth then, and I'd done my groundwork,
Yeah, well, I'd say, I've heard Justin Marshall speak and on a few things, and not just when you're there. I've seen him on TV and stuff, and he always mentions you, and he talks about, top coaches he's had, and he always, speaks very highly of you. And then I was listening to your podcast the other day, the Tuesday Club, which is very good. I enjoy that.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, with Kyle there. But you had Dan Bigger on, and Dan was his opening statement was you must have been going a bit red in the face there. How complimentary he was of you. It was good to hear though. You know,
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to hear. You know, he's never said anything like that to my face, but it's nice to know, isn't it? You don't do it, Fint, to get that. You know, you have mutual admiration. If the player or players are putting everything into it and trying to better themselves and doing stuff for the team, which is ultimately you are part of as the coach, then you're going to do all you can for them. You're going to, and like take Daniel. I've had my moments with him. Justin, I had a lot of moments with him. But you know me, mate. I'm straight with you. You know, I'll tell you straight. In business, I'll tell you no. I'll tell you something, my thoughts, and you might not like it sometimes, but you respect me for it. But you know as well, I've got your back, and I'll do anything for you. You know, particularly as we're in business and we're mates, and that's the impression that I want. That's how I want people to be with me, and so I am with them as much as I can. And like with Justin, he was obstinate and difficult, a real winner, never wanted to not be in the team. And I thought he would give back quite a lot to the young players. He didn't for a while because he didn't want to give his secrets up. He was long in the tooth and he just wanted to play and win. So, you know, he couldn't do some of the speed work that some of the others could do because of he had a dodgy Achilles. So the conditioner suggested that he played squash because he liked squash. And I knew he used to play squash in Canterbury with Robbie Deans. So I said, look, I'll come in on your day off and I'll come and play squash with you. So it wasn't just then helping him with the sharpness. It was a cup of tea after, you know, the banter. He got to know me. He saw that I was taking time out. And I won his respect. And also when he had to leave the Ospreys, I was the one that told him to his face the real reasons why, and he respects me for that. But I just see it as I was doing my job, and we're big mates now, close because of those things. But there were touchy times as well, and this has been the same with Daniel. You know, you have to, when you're a younger player, you got to put him straight sometimes, but then you nurture as well, and he's one that really responded to that. But they're all different, mate. You treat them the same but differently according to their personality, you know.
You talked about the Osprey side that came on with you, Sean, and obviously was dubbed the Galacticos in so many quarters, and it was arguably the most star-studded regional side Welsh Rugby's had since inception of the regions, you know, just the turn of the century and whatever. Now, you had great success there as well. Obviously, you won league titles and an Anglo-Welsh Cup, if I remember rightly, as well. But were there any regret? And I'm going to ask you the obvious question you've probably been asked 100 times before, if not more. You know, the lack of a Heineken Cup in that trophy cabinet from that period. Why didn't it happen? And does it bug you that it didn't happen?
Yeah, it kills me today. I'll tell you the truth. You won't mind me saying this. I had a text at, and I'll get my phone out here. I had a text at. Let me get this right. Right, there we go. I had it at 22:49 last night from Adam Jones, right? Because the Ospreys website, they've just been doing a dream team, greatest team or whatever. And it's pretty much the team that we had in the Times Fraser you're talking about. And, you know, we're on our text conversation there. We just said that we've both said, you know, our regret is not winning Europe. I said, you know, it still kills me that we never won Europe, Adam says. And I said, I still can't sleep at night. San Sebastian 2010, quarter-final against Biarritz. Yeah. Now, to answer your question a bit more fully, when we started as Neath Swansea Ospreys, all the regions, they started like a ranking system for the draw for the pools of the European Cup and the Challenge Cup.
Sure.
So we started on Cardiff had some ranking points because they had made the final against Breve a couple of years before. We started with nothing. We were a new entity, so we had to win points, if you like, based on our Celtic League standing. Now we finished 4th in the first year, I think it was, just qualified for the European Cup, and so we had low ranking points. So when those were coming out, and I'm not making excuses here, I'm just telling how it was. So our first Heineken pool, we had to lose. We were the champions, you know?
Yeah.
So the only way you could accumulate other points, as well as your domestic league, was doing well in the European Cup each year. So for a couple of years, you know, one year we had Perpignan the French champions, Sale the English champions, and Munster the Celtic champions. Well, how are you going to get any points? Getting those. So it was very difficult, but we started to improve the squad, started doing well domestically, and that's why it's a long process. It's building a culture, building a winning process, building a squad takes a while, and that's why I don't like when coaches are thrown away. If you pick the right guy or the right coaching team, keep them in there to let them go through a long cycle. Fortunately, Lynn and I, and then myself and Jonathan Humphreys after that were given that, and we got better. We got to a quarter-final. We got to another quarter-final where we lost to Munster away. People say, Andy Howell from Wales Online said to me after that, we lost out there. So you're going to resign now, Sean? I said, we play him with the European champions in Thomond Park in front of 20,000. Yeah, but he got Galactic. Goes, well, have a look at their team. They got 12 in the Irish team. They just won the Grand Slam. They are not bad, So it's a bit like Wales winning a World Cup. Or England football team winning a World Cup, or Wales football team winning the European Championship. It's very difficult. But I refer you to 2010. That was the team. And Biarritz and San Sebastian. When we had Biarritz, I thought, great. They took it to San Sebastian away from their real home. I thought, this is our time. And we were better on the day. We scored some fantastic tries. But some things happened in that game, Fraser, anomalies that I don't think I'll ever see again. And I always refer to scrum 5 on their line. I'm thinking we're going to go 2 scores ahead here. It squirms out the side of the scrum for some reason. We had a powerful scrum. The Zimbabwean American winger in Wenger picks it up. He hands off Mike Phillips. He goes 50 meters. He hands off Shane Williams, goes 70 meters, and beats Lee Byrne 95 meters to score. Damien Trial kicks 3 of the ugliest drop goals you'll ever see in your life. We're 2 points down. The clock goes into the red. We're moving into 40 meters. George Clancy's arm goes out. Advantage. Fantastic. Dan goes for a speculative drop goal, misses, thinking we got the pen in front of the sticks. Clancy blows up. Gone. Those are the fine margins. And it would have been Munster in the semi-final at the Millennium Stadium. I'm pretty sure we would have won that. And the final that year was the Millennium Stadium. So that was your chance. And on such fine margins, So
it's interesting. It's that quarterfinal you picked out, actually, because the one that stood in my mind was the 2007-2008 season, when a heavily fancied Osprey season team lost to Saracens, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think I remember a month or two later, correct me if I'm wrong, you then won, I think it was called the EDF Energy Cup, but it was actually the Anglo-Welsh Cup. You beat Leicester convincingly in the final. What should have been celebrated is, a great victory. Leicester had been one of the dominant teams in Europe for the best part of that decade. It almost felt like an anticlimax. And I remember reading the media reports to it, saying that almost it was a trophy, but in reality, the bigger fish that they lost, the Heineken Cup.
Because we'd beaten Saracens in the semi-final of that EDF at the Millennium Stadium.
That's right,
convincingly. Gavin was excellent. We were all really good that day, and I think that cost us in that quarter-final because we had beaten them so convincingly. The second thing was it was on a Sunday, phrase, right? And most of our Celtic games were on Friday nights. And this is another thing I regret, knowing what I know now. It was like a 1 o'clock kickoff live on Sky on a Sunday, and it was snowing.
In Coventry, if I remember right, was it?
No, it was at Vicarage Road.
Vicarage Road, right.
Vicarage Road, right? A horrible place. But if 1 o'clock kickoff, we never kicked off 1 o'clock on a Sunday. And I remember Saturday night, a lot of the players were up having a coffee in the hotel late, just killing time. I thought to myself, we need to go to bed, boys. It wasn't anything. There was no maliciousness in it. But then going to the game, I thought to myself on the bus, I thought this is on us too quick. I thought that, we were a bit lax in the warm up. Got to sort of sense it. And even though we were narrowly down at half time, we sort of went a bit panicky, a bit nuts. I remember Lynn went absolutely nuts at half time, but there was no need because we were in the game. We were growing stronger in the game, and we had a great chance. Poor old Andrew Bishop, I got so much time for, knocked the ball on over the line, and I think that was a defining moment as well. But again, I got this thing in my mind. It was never meant to be, you know. It's just like, I don't know. But great times. And we had a great bounce back ability because, as you say, we won the EDF. And then again in 2010, the Biarritz one, we bounced back and won the Magners League there at the RDS in Dublin. So we had a bounce back. We had a resolve in the squad, that's for sure.
You know, just going back to the Biarritz game and Clancy putting his hand out and then taking it back in. You get a lot now. You see, especially this year's Six Nations, when we had a Six Nations and it was a thing. You had, you know, Eddie Jones was critical of the ref quite a few times, you know, and it's sort of creeping in to rugby, like being critical of the ref in a post-match interviews. But when something like that happens, do you get any feedback? Do you go and see him privately, individually as a coach? And do you get feedback to what happens? Or
Man, it's the most frustrating thing in the world, right? Basically, George Clancy could have cost, well, he could have cost people their careers. You know, you can't say what would have happened in the. Hey, Dan might have missed the penalty, you know, but in all likelihood, we had the momentum in the season. The win in the Magners League said that. And when you go to speak to them after, they don't want to know. They don't want to know. Or you get a couple of weeks later, you write the report. There's nothing you can do to change the result. No. But you write it, you send it, and they go, yeah, you're right. You're right there. Yeah, I was wrong there. Well, thanks very much. It almost makes it worse. And I got to the point in my career where I didn't go there again. At Bristol, we got to 3 playoff finals. Won the league outright by 20, 30 points the 3 seasons I was there. Had to then play semi-finals home and away, and then a final home and away. So somebody in fourth place, Rotherham, could easily have gone and got promoted, having finished 40 points behind you after the course of a normal season. Ridiculous. It's gone now. But again, the 3 years I was there, it happened. And the second final we got to, Worcester. What's his name? He's an Irish-English ref. Oh, short, curly hair. Oh, see, I've blanked him out of my memory. It'll come back to me anyway, right? Now, he gave us 2 yellow cards in the last 5 minutes. We were 2 scores clear, and then he yellow carded Dwayne Peel and a back rower, you know, for something. But the one that did it was we were down to 12 or 13 men. He yellow carded a forward for something that he didn't yellow card a Worcester player for in the first half, in an identical situation, which should have been a penalty try, yellow card, and it just ended up as a penalty. We kicked for touch, and then we missed the next opportunity. Now, it's all ifs and buts, but when you look back on it and you show him that, he'll go, yeah, sorry, I should have yellow carded him, should have been a penalty try, but it's no good. It's no good. And do you know what? It's the most frustrating thing. They're only human, I know, but they need to understand the ramifications, right? The magnitude of such decisions. And I know you can't have leeway for or sympathy for, you know, a club that's won it by 30 points and they should go up because they're the biggest club and they've been the best team all season. They call it as they see it, but you know, they need to be really consistent. But it's a bit like football refs, isn't it? You know, you never see them in front of the camera after. They never get asked, oh, you're going to lose your job now. You're going to resign from refereeing because you got that wrong. It's so tough, mate.
Is that why video technology is needed? I know in football, the VAR debate, there's been so many teething problems with that. But maybe in rugby, the system runs a little more smoothly. Now, it frustrates me watching rugby as a fan because it can slow the game down considerably. Now, it's almost 2 hours aside to watch the game of international rugby these days. But is that why it is maybe so necessary? Because there are these potentially life-changing decisions, you know, that if wrong can very much alter the course of history.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my mates are old school. They're like, oh, let the cricket umpire make the decision or let the ref make it. But if the technology is there, Fraser, we've got to use it. We've got to use it. I mean, look at cricket now. It's brilliant, isn't it? You know, brilliant. And then there was one dreadful decision, I think, in the Ashes where, no, it was the World Cup semi-final England, I think it was, where the guy is plumb out. Nathan Lyon is bowling. He's plumb out. The umpire gives him not out because the magnitude of the decision would have been huge. he's probably got a bit of doubt. But they got no reviews left, Australia.
It's the Ashes. It's Stokes.
It's the Ashes. Stokes in the Ashes, sorry.
Yeah.
They got no reviews left. So when Hawkeye shows that the umpire's wrong, really everybody should be up in arms. But almost the blame goes to the Australian team because they'd used up their reviews, and they'd used a shocking review. I think a leg side review.
That's right. Yeah.
But I refer to that in rugby. I think it's so critical. I think that it has to, and I think VAR football has to be persevered with. They just got to get it right. They just got to let the crowd know. They've just got to show the replay or something. They don't do that, do they? So everybody's in the crowd going, well, what's going on? And I think they've got it a little bit wrong there. They've got to learn from tennis, cricket, and rugby, I think.
Here's my issue with it. I'm going to use this now to come on to something else as well. My issue with it is the physicality side, and I want to come on to this to talk about the modern day emphasis on physicality in rugby. I think we see the game has changed, and even in the last 5-10 years, immensely in terms of the dangers involved and the contact and the collisions involved. And you're talking about international rugby now. There was a lot of what people would argue were soft yellows and reds given in the World Cup just gone by. Right now, I didn't buy that argument because I think by that point, every professional player playing for his country and then had been drilled the rules into them, whether they agreed with them or not, whether they thought that the game had gone soft or you do this 30 or 40 years ago. In my book, if you're playing for your country on the World Cup stage where you know the rules and there's video cameras on you and referees are going to look at incidents retrospectively, you've got even if the slowing down the replay maybe makes it worse than it was, you've got no excuse to go in with a straight arm. I said the same thing about Sonny Bill Williams in that second lines test in 2019. My dad, more from your era, was arguing that it was very soft, but in my eyes, if you're going to go down, shoulder down, with no intention of wrapping your arms, you run the risk, right? But a lot of these incidents, in terms of foul play and maybe illegal physicality and dangerous, are being picked up on the cameras, right? And yet these are the same rules that we're supposed to be abiding by in the grassroots and amateur game. And that, for me, makes the grassroots and amateur game very dangerous, right? Because even at that level, it's a lot more physical than it was 10 years ago. I think Finn would agree with that as well. Even watching local games in St David's and whatever, it's big boys now, And where I take umbrage a bit with this whole thing is you've got the amateur game, the professional game, which is now trying to follow the same rules and yet is dangerously out of sync when managing them. Because if you're a referee in an amateur game and there's foul play or there's maybe a shoulder charge or a forearm that's quite subtle, you're not going to see it in the flash of the moment, and you've got no impartial touch judges, and you've got no video technology or elements like that to let you know about it. So how do we address that? Because for me, the grassroots game is a pretty dangerous place now, and that's the sort of thing which could put young people or people who are maybe a bit timid or unsure coming through, and it's numbers which we desperately need at the moment.
I tell you who it affects as well, Faze, is referees. Because, as you say, it's very hard to officiate. You've got no help when you're out there. A couple of my mates are refs in the lower leagues. No help from touch judges. You've got quite vociferous players, fans, coaches now. There's a behaviour element that's creeping in to rugby. Not so much at the highest level because it's scrutinised a lot more, but, it's... I don't know, it's a reflection of society, maybe. I don't know. But, we may start to lose referees. And we can't have games without referees. So I'd like to see the union pump a lot more into that area. I think if you had strong officiating and help and support, and those incidents were nipped in the bud so that it was cultured into you. Like, I've grown up, you don't back chat the referees. You go 10 meters. You don't swing an arm. If I played rugby now, all my tackles would be low because that's what I was taught to do, and it was ingrained the right thing to do. So I think throw some money at referee, and so we get strong officials filtering down so we can administer the game. Secondly, we need to educate our coaches. Too often I see my kids, they're older now, but when they were younger, volunteer coaches, because that's what they do. Dads get involved. And they tend to get their role models or ideas from the professional games. You see 8-year-old kids doing defensive line speed drills and smashing them and choke tackles. Well, hang on now, it's meant to be about fun at that age. So we plow a lot of energy into that. So we get them younger to socialize them into a better set of standards when they start to play the senior game. I think that's the only way we can do it. I mean, I think the horse has bolted a little bit.
Right.
It's a bit like I've been playing cricket again for the last couple of years in my local club, and I can't get over the behaviour of people on the field, of young 20-somethings. I can't get over the way they speak to the opposition. I've stopped twice batting because I'm all for a bit of banter, but I'm getting abuse. I'm stopping and I say, oh, hang on here now. This isn't this. To coin a phrase, this is not cricket. But it's not sporting ethics that I've been brought up as. So who are now instilling those sporting ethics? I mentioned the late John Bevan, my PE master. So what are teachers and parents and mates instilling in youngsters now? I think we're going through a period at the moment where the horse is bolted. So let's quickly readdress that and get stuck into our kids about culture, values, tradition, rules, laws, because otherwise it's going to get out of control. It's going to get absolutely out of control. But it's a real difficult one to answer, Fraser, because referees are out there on their own. Very often coaches are out there on their own Tuesday night with 6 or 8 people, and then guess what? The other 12 turn up on a Thursday to do the team run so they can play on a Saturday. Our whole rugby ethos is changing, unfortunately, and it's a big job for the union. Oh, Finter's got to go to the loo.
Technical problems there. And are we getting it right now? Because it's so easy to criticise from afar when the WRU maybe doesn't have the financial clout that the IRFU and certainly England and France do. But we've spoken there about some near misses with the Ospreys in Europe. The Scarlets have had near misses, but at the moment, I don't think it's an unfair statement to say we are, from a Welsh point of view, we are further away than a European Champions Cup winner. And this outgone coronavirus pandemic, if you're going to take positives from negatives, I think it is a chance to reset, to take stock and to look at structure, because this is going to be a lot of time out of the game now. And what do we need to address, Sean, in regional rugby? And is it simply a case of we haven't got the financial power to compete with the higher countries? And if we don't,
there's a bit of that, and I think we can learn lessons from those successes in the 2000s of the Ospreys and to a certain extent the Cardiff Blues.
Yes, yeah.
And then more recently the Scarlets, because they've done it. All 3 of those teams I mentioned did gain those successes under the budgets of big French clubs and big English clubs, and the 3 powerhouse Irish provinces, without a doubt, right? That's not a secret. So if we can't meet it financially, how do we meet it, and how did we meet it? Well, this is how. So people go on to me about the Galacticos, right? You had such a team. You had Jerry Collins, you had Marty Holler, and you had Justin Marshall. Well, hang on there now, right? Hang on. We had a load of homegrown Welsh talent. Yeah, but they were all Grand Slam winners and Lions. They weren't when they started out. So, I list them off. You go Duncan Jones, Hugh Bennett, Richard Hibbard, Adam Jones, Ian Evans, Alan Wynne Jones, Jonathan Thomas, Justin Tipperick, Ryan Jones. You go back to people like Rhys Webb, Dan Bigger, Ashley Beck, Andrew Bishop, Shane Williams, Lee Byrne. I'm listing a Lions squad here, but they all they all started in the region, as club players and developed their rugby in Neath, Swansea, whatever, Bridgend, and then in the Osprey setup. And then they became international rugby players. And then they flourished. And what helped that was having 1 or 2 quality overseas people. So in the first instance for us, I take us, Philo Tatia and Jason Spice. Then and Stefan Tablanche. Then you bring in Justin Marshall, Tommy Bowe. Then you bring in Marty Holler, Jerry Collins. All these then have a massive, massive influence. Not, some guy, with all due respect, who's had 3 caps for Tonga and played 10 times for the Auckland Blues in Super Rugby. So what? Not some guy who's played, no disrespect, for the Kings or the Cheetahs in Super Rugby, or he's won a Currie Cup and had 1 game for the Springboks. No, because he's going to come at such a price that is taking money out of your budget to enhance and grow young Welsh players. So, it's almost like Lynn Jones and I started off with a Viv Richards, Joel Garner mentality. So county cricket used to be allowed 2 overseas players, and they'd sign 2 quality overseas. They'd have Viv Richards, a scrum half or outside half who could run the game for you, score runs, points, whatever, and then a big, nasty, fast bowler who'd threaten people, carry the ball, Philo Tia. So the Blues did that with Xavier Rush and Ben Blair. Then they added Casey Laulala, Paul Tito, So at the moment, I'm seeing it's a bit of an oxymoron because, like, take the Ospreys now, they've signed all the Welsh players. So you've got Bradley Davis, Dan Lydiard, Alan Wynne, Justin Tipperick, the list goes on, the Welsh players, but they're away half the year.
Yeah.
They're away. And then they're supplementing them with, and I don't want to criticize anybody, but they're not Philo Tia and Jason Spice. They're not Xavier Rush and Ben Blair, So I'd like to see more focus on the academies. I think we've missed a trick. I'm not so sure what the focus has been on player development, but there's something wrong in the academies. I used to be all over the academy when I was there, and the semi-pro teams, we'd put players who weren't playing on a weekend, and they go back to play for Swansea, Neath, Aberafon, Bridgend. If they weren't playing on a weekend, Justin Tipperick, Ashley Beck, Rhys Webb, Ryan Bevenden play for Aberafon. Richard Hibbard, Dan Bigger would go and play for Swansea. James Hook would go and play for Neath. Scott Baldwin would go back to play, and Matthew Morgan play for Bridgend. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
And all of a sudden, then we got academy players coming into a system. They play Wales 20s. They have a couple of games for the Ospreys. They've made it. They don't play. They don't play enough.
Absolutely.
And that has a knock-on effect. People say, well, you're taking people out of the Aberafon side. Well, no. The guy that Justin Tipperick would replace in the Aberafon side that Saturday, he'd go back and play for Tata Steel or Taibach or Carmarthen. So there's a knock-on effect down. Yeah. So I think that there has to be a little bit of a reset and a rewind and a rethink on that. I'm not so sure whoever. We've got a lot of good young talent in Wales, but the identification on who can and who can't make it, have we got the right people in place making those decisions and putting them through at the right time? I'm not so sure. I don't know.
I thought you're saying about the young talent in Wales and identifying it. I thought when we were on that Ryan Jones bike ride on the Zoom and Flats came on, and Rhys Williams there asked him, could he name the under-18 side? Were you there with that?
Yeah.
So basically, Wales under-18s had played England under-18s at Narberth, and Rhys Williams had obviously been playing for Wales and Flats for England, and he'd found the programme. And when Flats reeled off the English side, I mean, I knew every single one of the players, but when they reeled off the Welsh side, there was only about 3 players I think I'd heard of. And you think, well, where's you find that I think seem to find that a lot in Wales. At the age groups there, they don't come through or they don't develop like they promised to at under-18s or.
And we always get the answer, it was a good crop that year. So you take the 20 side, I think they made the final, did they? It was Lee Halfpenny, Dan Bigger, Jonathan Davis, Rhys Webb, Ryan Bevenden, that group. Particularly good group. And then before that, there was a Wales under-21 side with Nicky Robertson, Gavin Henson, Adam Jones, Paul James, Bradley Davis, that lot.
Yeah.
Yes, you get good crops. England, they got a bigger player pool, so they tend to get a bit more right. But I don't know is the answer, right? Because I think you've got to have people who've got an eye for a player. It's a hell of a skill you've got to have experienced people who know their pedagogy, know their rugby, know their growth development systems, know professional rugby. It's the old Brazilian football, isn't it? They used to have the head coach of the national team. When he was done, he'd go back and he'd run the development system. You know what I mean? They'd rotate that way. And there's a little bit of that in New Zealand, but I'm not so sure we're identifying the right. And I'm only, look, this is a finger in the air job, but I've got enough sort of information from young players been involved in academy systems over the last 3-4 years that have been encouraged to change position or have been moved out of the system because they weren't going to make it. I've gone to the likes of Harbury, Loughborough, Sale, and made it. Lewis Rees-Zammit and the likes. These people, all of a sudden, Josh Adams, there's another one. All of a sudden, they discarded at a certain age. Somebody else develops them across the bridge. Oh, well, he's good. We'll have him back now. So who's making those decisions? It's very difficult to find those quality people. I know, but we've got to find them. I don't think we can just go, right, player X is retired, he's finished now, we'll give him an academy job. Yeah, if he's good, he's got an eye for a player and he's a good coach and he's a mentor, great. But you've got to have experienced people in there as well that work with the senior team that are pushing guys through that are going to make it. You mentioned about Dan Bigger earlier, we were all watching Dan at 15, 16. The boy Costello was like, I saw him playing against my son at 16 down in Pencoed. Now, Simon King was big Pencoed man. He'd been talking to me about him for a couple of years since he was 12. He had him in Pencoed school. So why did we let him go to Leicester Tigers? And why, by the way, is he coming back to the Scarlets now? He's a Bridgend boy. He should be in the Ospreys. Something's missing there, isn't it? It's common sense tells you something's wrong. And this is happening to a lot of players.
So, do you miss the coaching then? Obviously, you've been out of it for a few years now.
What do you think?
Well, you sound like you're still very passionate about it.
I'm very passionate about it. I'm very, very passionate about it. I've been burnt a little bit, I think. I've been burnt to a point where everything you do as a professional coach, you do, yes, for all the players and the club and the entity, and you invest so much time and energy and emotion. You get very little back at the end of it. And it affects not you so much, it affects your family and friends. And I'm not prepared to put my family and friends through that again. So it'd have to be on my terms, and it'd have to be quite a novel job and a certain role. Also, Fint, I've gone too far down the line now. It's not just the TV I do. You know me, I've become a bit of an entrepreneur. I've got involvement with Muuk. I'm a director, shareholder. I'm also involved with a new golf company. I've got my own sport and media business that I run all my events through. So I host events, I speak, I write for Rugby World and the Pro 14, as well as the TV stuff. And I'm involved in lots of different things, and I couldn't give that up, and I'm too far down the line, mate. So I miss the banter, I do miss the camaraderie, but I get enough of it, I think, because I mix in with the boys. And I just had a text from Adam again, and they, you saw me with Daniel the other day, and I could list off, I'm so lucky, 20 or 30 guys like that I can share the memories with, and more importantly, you're not going to get those times back.
You list off 20 or 30. I'm going to put you on the spot, Sean, on a light-hearted note. One. You list one player who's the best player you've ever worked with. Not necessarily the best player, but the best one.
I can't.
Come on.
Because I got so many for so many different reasons. So emotionally attached to a lot of them, that I don't want to do any of them a disservice.
Sure.
Adam, when he was 16, right the way through, he's had 100 international caps. Shane, greatest player I've ever worked with. Tommy Bowe, great fella. Our worlds collided as Ospreys, and Tommy Bowe took great things. Philo Tia, what a man. Jason Spice, huge affinity with. Then you go back to Marshy, Mike Phillips, James Hook, Lee Byrne, Sonny Parker, a strong connection with. The connection I still have with Ryan Jones. You know, Dan Bigger, you know, Sean Connor now. You know, you come across so many that it would. Andrew Bishop. You know, I have so much time for Andrew Bishop. I'm doing a load of them a disservice now. You know, Alan Wynne. I could tell you so much about Alan Wynne. I got so much time for the guy. National treasure. That I couldn't pick one. I couldn't admit. I'm sorry, and I hope all the listeners understand that I'm so connected with so many of them that I'd be doing them a disservice. Sorry.
It's a fortunate list to be choose from, mind.
Yeah, it's difficult, mind, as a coach, isn't it? You know, you are. You know, if you're up there, you're the one who takes a lot of the criticism if things aren't going wrong, and and as much as, you know, you've got all these people who sort of, you know, who liked you and they name you as one of the best coaches, things like this, you're always going to get people then who see things differently, like a clash of personality, or they haven't been picked and they just don't like it for whatever reason. I mean, the reason I've gone on to this is you talk about the Ospreys dream team. I do want to mention this. In Pembrokeshire now, Pembrokeshire Sport, they're naming a dream team of all the teams in Pembrokeshire, rugby teams. And I was named as coach of St. David's, like, you know.
Really?
I was, but myself and a boy, Barry John, great rugby name, a good friend of mine I was in school with, went to Australia and everything, we coached St. David's. And it's been a bad day. You see the team that was picked for St. David's and named as the coach there. But then I also, you know, you think, you never take yourself too seriously or take things out too seriously, because you think, well, I know there was a few people who didn't like me, you know, there's a few people who wouldn't rate me. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's nice to, you know, and then just going back, when you've come away from the coaching, when you are in that position, you are really putting yourself on a pedestal there to be shot at, and
you are, mate. And do you know what? Yeah, for those of us who've been there, we are the sort of animals that can cope with that. You know, you cope with the pressure, and you know that there's people, jealous people, or people who don't rate you, and you deal with that. But like I said earlier, what you can't control is how your family and your friends feel, because they are really hurt by it. They read the social media, they read the newspapers, they listen to the pundits and this, that, and the other, and it's hard for them to take. When you are in the position, you've got a coat of armor on, you go into battle, you understand, you know. But, you know, again, it goes back to, you do have guys who dislike you. You have players who are not picked who think they should be picked, and I understand that. But I don't like the ones who go behind your back. You know, they form committees. I don't like coaches who stab you in the back, and I've had that. I don't like, you know, players who are dishonest about injury or their form, or won't take, you know, constructive feedback. And I just hope that in a way on the training field that I've done enough, you know, for when they're a bit older and they grow up, that they understand why I was doing it. A famous Pembrokeshire boy, Jonathan Thomas, said to me just last year, he said, and another one I'm really tight with and got a lot of time
Great
for.
Great bloke.
Fantastic bloke, and a great coach already, and going to be a fabulous coach. I've tried to, because they tend to, a bit like Adam there, they tend to come back to me at certain times for certain bits of advice, that's all, or run something by me, which I absolutely love doing. And he said to me last year, because I went down and did his club's dinner, he said, do you know what, Holster, that's what they call me. Do you know, I was reflecting the other day, he said, I didn't realize it at the time, but everything you were saying to us was right. You know, everything you say was, you were right. I said, I know, and I told you that when you grow up, you'd understand it a lot better.
Yeah.
He said, now when I'm coaching, I understand what you meant, but when you're playing and you're younger and you just go and do it. You don't really
Sure.
understand or register why you're doing it until you're older and you reflect back and you think, bloody hell, he was right, wasn't he? So that was a really nice thing for him to say. And I talked to him when I speak to him about coaching. He's doing a great job, and he could go on to be an international rugby coach, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. So obviously, naming all those Galacticos as well. A good few of them have done our events, Muuk Adventure events. We've had Shane on the Tour de Shane bike ride. Did rugby camps with Lee Byrne. Goffey's come down and done the swim. Looking at Ryan is eyeing up one or two events as well. So, have you ever thought of taking on any of these challenges? Or
I did the Tour de Shane. Done it twice.
You did do the Tour de Shane, yes, yeah. I won't say what you did the first time, mind.
I know. I was. Oh God, I had to duck out, didn't I? I was late for a scrum 5, I think.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, have you thought about, like, talking about Ironman sort of thing, or some sort of big ultra?
Do you know, as much as Ryan will tell you that your mind will give up for your body, I like to keep myself in shape. I'm 50 this year, but I go into the gym. I walk every morning. I've got a lovely part of the world where I live, the Avon Valley. I take my dog for about an hour, so I get about 10,000 steps done before 8:30 in the morning, and then I'll go into the gym every day. But having said that, my knee that I talked to you about, and my back, I've got a bit of a disc issue as well. I'm not so sure they'd hold out. I don't crave that I have to do an ultra marathon, or I have to do the London Marathon, or I don't crave that. What I do crave is challenges, but within certain parameters, and I feel like they have to be a lifelong experience. So as you know, I do a lot of work for Velindre Cancer Centre. I did that cycle, the West Coast ride. I've done a couple of treks, went to Patagonia and to Machu Picchu in Peru with my son. And they are tough, but they are such rewarding life experiences. Yeah. So that's what I hanker out for. I do have ambitions for Muuk Adventures. I mean, the reason I got involved when you asked me down to have a little look was because I love Pembrokeshire. I think St David's is a beautiful part of the world. I thought that you had something going there. You'd instilled some real good values around about the activities and showcasing St David's and Pembrokeshire coast, and I loved that. And so my drive and ambition there now is to grow our events, which are brilliant events, and I've been able to bring the likes of Shane because of my profile and relationship with him, and Ryan and Coffee, but also grow the activity side, because we're based on at Aberystwyth Beach, and we've got great partners like Celtic Camping, where we can house people and do great things like coast steering, kayaking, pre-season fitness camps. We can do mud runs, and all of that. And we did a cracking dads and lads session where I brought James Hook and his sons, Reese Webb and his son, Ryan Jones and his son, remind me, Shane came down with Carter. I brought my sons, and you had your sons there, and we did a dads and lads stuff, which, we can do mums and sons, mums and daughters, family things like that. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, Ryan and James Hook and Shane are bringing their sons' teams down for Muuk to look after on training camps and pre-season camps and end of season. I'd like to grow those things into maybe festivals and presentation camps and holidays, and I'd like to grow that because we've got something going here with Muuk Adventures. So I'd rather see those challenges rather than run a marathon or an ultra marathon. I wouldn't mind walking the coastal path, though. 186 miles. Yeah, it is. Yeah. I wouldn't mind doing that. I think that would be a fantastic thing to do, stopping off in various hostelries or B&Bs or camp and complete all of that. I think that would be magnificent to do that.
Well, obviously, we were on about that before, and doing maybe as a fishing tour, a walking fishing tour, because you know, he's talking about doing the ultra marathons and stuff like that. But I know you're really comfortable and at home when you come down, going out by yourself on the kayak and doing kayak fishing and just experiencing the Mother Nature by yourself in a, you know, to get a bit of escapism, really, isn't it, from the busy world that you live all the time, like, yeah.
If there are any TV producers out there or companies, I would like to do. I think it would showcase the Pembrokeshire coast so well. Not that we're short of that, but yeah, I'd like to walk it and fish it, and maybe have various people walk with me along the way and do a spot of fishing. Maybe off the rocks once, maybe out on a kayak another, you know, out on a boat another. I don't know, however that would work, but and then showcase the coastal pathway, because it's a beautiful part of the world, and I think that would make quite a good show, actually. If Bob Mortimer can do it with Paul Whitehouse, then Sean Holley and Fintan Godkin can do it.
That's true. All right. Well, just before we sort of wrap things up, I know, Fraser, if you want to add anything else into it.
No, it's been very interesting, actually. Sean's always come across to me on television, you know, cool, laid-back customer, but you can see when you reignite a few memories of Ospreys and rugby games gone by and coaching careers, a lot of passion and fire in there. So no, he's been a great chat, but I will get that one name off him another time when he's maybe not on camera. And
you have to buy me a beer. You have to buy me a beer.
Yeah, no problem. No, thank you very much for coming on, Sean. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Stay safe, yeah?
Hey, just before we finish, Sean, I mentioned your podcast. I do watch that. You always do a little quiz at the end, or sort of thing. Up and under, and you put people under pressure, like, you know, as in
no.
So I got to do the same to you. Ours is called a lockdown lowdown, right?
Okay.
So what we've got now, right? We've been put in lockdown for another 3 weeks. So I'm not asking you to make lifelong decisions here. This is for a 3-week period of a lockdown. First of all, would you give up social media or TV for this period?
Social media.
You'd give that up, yeah? Okay. If you had to have one guest with you, would it be Mike Phillips or Justin Marshall? If you had to be locked away for 3 weeks with one of them.
I'd have Marshy, because he's just taken up making beer.
All right. It's a controversial one here. I know your dog's been in already, and I know how much you love your dog. Your dog or your kids. Only 3 weeks.
I'd do without the dog for 3 weeks. I would.
Would you? I thought you wanted a 3-week break from the kids. Like, yeah,
I could do with a 6-week break from them.
Right, if you had to, Clive Woodward, Eddie Jones.
Oh, Clive. I couldn't, Eddie. What's the matter with him? He's got it wrong, isn't he? No, it'd be Sir Clive.
And then the last one, it's not so much who you'd have with you, if you Aberavon or the Ospreys.
Ospreys. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Hey, at least you answered all of yours, unlike everyone else.
I did it with Jiffy. I did one with Jiffy, and he I said, Widnes or Warrington? He said, yeah, both. I said, Swansea or Cardiff? Both.
Yeah. I saw that. I heard that one. All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on, Sean. It's massive pleasure, and always good to catch up.
Absolutely my pleasure. Stay safe, boys, and Fint, we'll catch up very soon. Fraser, thanks very much.
Great to talk to you, Sean. Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.